On the 21st of January 2023, there's going to be a super new moon. Now we're going to have a look at why this particular new moon is called a supermoon and why it's going to be the biggest new moon that we can have. So let's go back to the lunar cycle. So the lunar cycle is the phases that we see from Earth of the moon being illuminated by the sun. So as it goes around the Earth, it will take about 29.5 days to go from one full moon to the next. So depending on where the moon is in relation to the Earth and the sun, then we get this lunar cycle here. Now that takes 25.5 days to go from one full moon to the next. Same again for full moons, new moons, and then you get the various phases in between, because depending on where it is, it's only going to reflect some or all of the sunlight that is falling onto it back to where we are on the Earth. So what we see is this phase which takes just under 30 days. So the full moon, when the moon is fully illuminated, occurs when it's on the opposite side of the Earth to the sun. So when it's kind of behind the Earth in relation to the sun, then it will be fully illuminated from what we would see on Earth, and we would call that the full moon. Now the new moon, which is the one we're interested in here, happens on the opposite side of that. So that happens when it's in between the Earth and the sun. Now because the face that is facing towards the Earth doesn't have any sunlight shining on it, it doesn't reflect anything back, so the new moon is when it appears to be completely unilluminated from our reference point. So the face facing towards Earth is not illuminated, and that is our new moon. Now, the other thing that we need to bear in mind when we're talking about supermoons and things like that is that the moon's orbit is elliptical. So it's not a perfect circle, and it does change in the distance of the moon to the Earth. So as it goes around, that distance between the Earth and the moon changes over 29.5 days, or the lunar cycle. Now, when it's closest to Earth, which is the perigee, then the moon will appear at its largest in the sky. So we would kind of call that a supermoon. And that happens when it's at the closest point on that elliptical orbit. And the opposite of that is the apogee, which happens when it's the furthest away from the Earth. So when the moon is orientated in that part of its orbit, it's going to appear at its smallest. And we would call that a micromoon, for example. Now, the other thing to bear in mind here is that whilst the moon is going around the Earth is going around the sun. And it means that the orbit and that kind of configuration of the moon around the Earth changes as the Earth goes around. So, for example, full moons, new moons, and all the phases and that don't always occur at the same point in its orbit, because the lunar phase relates to the Sun-Earth configuration and how the sunlight is falling on the moon and how we see it. And then the supermoon, micromoons happen because of the actual orbit around the Earth. So it changes all the time. Now, on the 21st of January, a new moon is going to occur when it's at its closest point to Earth. So that means that the new moon at that point will be a super new moon, and it will appear its largest in the sky compared to when it's on the other side. So this particular one is going to appear quite large, and its largest on the 21st of January. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoy, then check out some of the other videos.